Why is that happening? That's my question.
As much as people may have been abhorred by Donald Trump's statement weeks ago, talking about how black folks, he's hearing that black folks find him relatable because what he's going through is similar to what black Americans have gone through. He wasn't lying. He was telling the truth.
Just when you thought he couldn't sink lower, Stephen A. Smith does just that.
When you see the law enforcement, the court system, and everything else being exercised against him, it is something that black folks throughout this nation can relate to with some of our historic, iconic figures. We've seen that happen throughout society. So no matter what race, what ethnicity you may emanate from, we relate to you when you're suffering like that because we know we have.
Where to even begin? Let's hear more, then discuss.
Now, what the hell would black folks have to do? What would they have in common with a guy that was born, on third base thinking he hit a home run? It's the legal system. Because on many, many occasions, when you see some of the notable figures from African-American communities throughout this nation that did everything they could to create change, including the late, great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., you saw how the law was manipulated or how law enforcement was manipulated to assist in bringing people down. That's the belief emanating from the black community.
Rough comparison, man. Let's show a polarizing difference.
And you know who embraced it more than anybody else? The black population. It's incredible. You see black people walking around with my mugshot. They do shirts.
So after Donald Trump made these comments, which Stephen A. Smith staunchly agrees with,
to compare black history where we've been discriminated against to his plight.
Yes.
Well, first of all, he's a billionaire, and they're prosecuting him for stuff he did wrong. They're prosecuting him for stuff he did wrong. People can vote for who they want to.
Yes.
But for him to compare his plight with that other African, I don't even like that term, the black people in America is asinine and stupid. It bothered me because for him to compare a white billionaire who is in trouble because of stuff he did. Not because of stuff, like black people get in trouble stuff that happened
they did not
deserve to do. But for him to compare that to black people's plight, that's just stupid on their part.
Charles Barkley, meanwhile, swung in the opposite direction of his fellow media member. After Stephen A. Smith's words went viral, the official GOP Twitter account wrote, "Stephen A. Smith tells it like it is. They've clearly politicized this thing with Donald Trump because they can't come up with a strategy to offset the momentum."
Well, Charles Barkley is 100% right. And this is why when Barkley was signed to do the show on CNN, I said he's going to be the best host on CNN. You know why? He's honest, and that's what he's known for. He's courageous in what he says. So is it true that the Democrats say a lot of sweet things to black voters to try to get them on their side? Yes. Is it true that they never deliver? Pretty much yes. Is it true that the Republicans are worse? Yes. But so if you're bragging that you're zero and the other side is negatives, I don't think that's the brag that you think it is.
Let's just go over a few things when it comes to the justice system. Smith and many others say is so relatable. And let's remember what Trump does with it. He calls for the exonerated 5 to be put to death. He does not denounce David Duke, the former Grand Wizard of the Triple K. No, of course not. He stereotyped April Ryan in an embarrassing exchange, saying she knows someone at the Congressional Black Caucus, and you know what? She should set up the meeting. He had to pay a large fine because they discriminated, he and his father, in their buildings and apartments, discriminated against black Americans. They refused to rent to black tenants. They thought it would bring the property down. After Charlottesville, where activist Heather Heyer was killed and others were wounded, he labeled Nazis fine people. This is not a man who is in favor of what he says he is and is relatable on certain fronts. From Vox, Kip Brown, a former employee at Trump's castle, accused another one of Trump's businesses of discrimination. He would say when Donald and his former wife Ivana, who by the way is buried at a Trump property so he can get a tax break, when they came to the casino, the bosses would order all the black people off the floor. It was the 80s. I was a teen, but I remember it. They put us all in the back. Another former employee, John O'Donnell, wrote a book. He's the former president of Trump Plaza Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City. And he quoted Trump's criticism of a black accountant. And here's that quote: "Black guys counting my money, I hate it. The only kind of people I want counting my money are short guys that wear yarmulkes every day. I think the guy is lazy," Trump would say, "and it's probably not his fault because laziness is a trait in blacks. It really is. I believe that. It's not anything that they can control." He would say later on in a 1997 Playboy interview that the stuff John O'Donnell wrote about me is probably true. He would attack kneeling black players for saying racism is bad and we have a police brutality problem in this country. There would be more. At the 2016 Republican convention, Trump officially seized the mantle of the law and order candidate, an obvious dog whistle playing to white fears of black crime, even though crime in the U.S. is historically low. All of his speeches, his comments, his campaign stops, his executive actions have continued this line of messaging. How could we forget? In reference to African countries and specifically Haiti, he said, "Why do we need to take in people from all those S-hole countries?" And on top of this, he also said, "Why can't we take in more people from Norway?" Totally relatable, right, guys? Trump reportedly said in 2017 that people who came to the U.S. from Haiti all have AIDS. And he lamented that people who came to the U.S. from Nigeria would never go back to their huts once they saw the United States. The White House denied Trump ever made the comments. Furthermore, Trump would tweet, "Several black and brown members of Congress, AOC, Ayanna Pressley, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, are from countries whose governments are a complete and total catastrophe and that they should go back to those countries." It's a common racist trope that he clung to. As we know, the list goes on and on and on. Meanwhile, via The Guardian, the NAACP saw all of his "I'm relatable to black people because I'm prosecuted" line, and they would release the statement, "Donald Trump is delusional to think that his criminality would be an attractive quality to black voters. He has taken advantage of an inherently racist system while black Americans have been abused by it. We are not the same." The Guardian would add more from Andra Gillespie, a political scientist at Emory, who said that Trump's flippant comments fit a narrative on how the former prez views his relationship with a certain voter base as simply transactional. Quote, "He's making the claim not that he has earned black voters' trust, but that black voters vote for him and owe him," she would say. If there are any stories we missed, if there are any that you, the viewer, would like to submit, get at me and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. DMs are open. Support the channel. All of our content is free. It's the least you could do. Become a paid channel member and or go to tyt.com/join to support the network as a whole. Thank you so much. Have a great day.